France's new Prime Minister gave his first speech to lawmakers on Tuesday. His goal was to shore up opposition support for this year's budget and avoid the fate of his predecessor. That government was brought down just last month. Joining us now to discuss the significance of today's address to the National Assembly and the economic situation in France is Remi Piet, a senior partner at Embellie Advisory. Welcome to the show, Remi. Good to see you. Now, talk about the significance of today's National Assembly address.
It was a very important speech, a little bit the equivalent of the State of the Union in the US. That's the moment where, once a year the French Prime Minister has to present the priority of his administration and what would be his key strategic decision. Now, obviously, in a situation of France right now that has, is currently seeing an instability, political instability that it hasn't experienced in the last few years. We've seen already a similar speech from, Prime Minister Barnier before his dismissal a couple of months ago, and François Bayrou actually did his, trying to find the right balance between, balancing the budget, but also trying to get, the favors, especially from the center-left parliamentary members, to encourage and dissuade them from actually voting the motion of censorship that the far left has actually put forward for voting. So he actually needs to have a series of a range of party members from the center-left to not sign on this and vote this censorship, so he actually can remain in position. And that's why this negotiation around the pension reform or a series of economic measures were so important to try to sway them towards the government.
So what is François Bayrou proposing in terms of pension? What else have we learned about his plans for addressing the budget deficit and improving France's economic outlook overall?
François Bayrou has a very long experience in French politics, and he always put together his image and his priorities on reducing the debt level of France, and so that's what he's trying to achieve. Unfortunately for him is that he has to get the support, as I was saying, of center-left parliamentary members that are pushing him to reduce the reforms that were done before by other prime minister under Emmanuel Macron, and especially this pension reform. His decision so far has been trying to recreate the condition of negotiations, but without actually making any kind of commitment to freeze or cancel that pension reform. What he's suggesting is that for more or less 6 or 7 months, you will have a discussion between union members, between the representative of the companies, to try to get some agreements level that would change the pension reform. But if they can't manage to find any kind of agreement, the current pension reform would actually be implemented, the one that is so unpopular on the left side of politics.
So what will it take to get lawmakers on both the left and the right on board with all of this? I mean, what are their initial reactions?
So the majority and the lack of majority is not, catastrophic for Bayrou, because he just needs to have a handful of ministers to support, of parliament members to support him. So what he's trying to do is to actually get some efforts, especially on some measures on us at the pension reforms, but also a series of decisions much more on how you would actually carry the investment in the future. He made some key decision towards the health sector, funding the hospitals, especially in terms of technicity, on a multi-year platform, which was a requirement from the center left-wing representative. There's also an understanding that François Bayrou is a little bit more towards the left side of politics that his predecessor was Barnier, and that Macron is unlikely anyway to actually choose any other prime minister that would be more favorable to the center-left party. So it might actually be a good decision and a good move, from the Socialist Party, the center-left, parliamentary members, to not vote that censorship, and therefore to make sure that there's at least some level of stability, and we can move forward on maybe not the pension reforms that they were calling for, but at least on a series of other economic measures.
So do you think he has the means and capacity to keep this latest government together?
It's going to be very difficult for him, but he has the capacity and the track record of being at the center of politics and being able to try to find some compromise. Whether he's going to be able to do so is still to be seen. But for example, he was very savvy on putting together the government itself. The Ministry of the Economy is a close friend from the leader of the Socialist Party, for example, on a personal level. There's a few ministers that he was able to pull, such as Manuel Valls, such as Elisabeth Borne, that usually were coming from the Socialist Party and eventually, supporting Macron. So it's a government which is slightly more colored towards, the Socialist Party, and that would actually potentially allow, Bayrou to save his government and maintain his position in over the last few years to have the stability that is deeply needed for France. So I think there will also be a sense of responsibility from the Socialist Party, understanding that there has been some moves in favor of their request. The François Bayrou will remain in position because the extreme right has already said that they will not sign that censorship put together by the extreme left, but there has been already in the past against the government Barnier a collusion of interest between both extremes. This is what François Bayrou is trying to avoid by pulling the Socialist Party towards the government.
What about public opinion? Do you think the French citizens will be on board with the latest changes he's proposing?
It's quite complicated to get a sense here because the French opinion has been so divided as shown by the latest elections. There's no clear majority, but there's an understanding that the country needs stability. France does not is not used to having a regular change of governments and ministers. Already when you actually see some limiting polls, you're seeing that the support to the Bayrou government is actually higher than the one from Barnier, his predecessor. They're very similar government, but you see that the support for François Bayrou is both linked to his political stature and his presence on the political exchequer of France for a very long time.